One opportunity coming up May 11th is a forum on sustainable clothing. And that's being led by Clara Berg. And but we'll also have more opportunities for that. We're discussing what that's going to look like. But energy and food, transportation, those are some other categories. It's more about like the nuts and bolts of what you do, because it's not always obvious. And then how you find out information. And I meant to time myself, so I forgot to time myself. Okay, and then we have a number of partnerships that we made a lot of progress last year in developing more partnerships with various farms that also are social justice farms. And we also have been building our partnership with Earth Ministry. We took advantage with a small group of us doing legislative advocacy this year to, they had a training because they do it every year on advocating for environmentally important bills. So some of us got involved with that this year and we'll do more next year. And then the facility and campus improvements and carbon reduction. Some of the obvious ones are the electric charging station that was, it's out in the parking lot, but now I have to consult my phone. But then some others this year is replacing the gas water heaters in the Blodell kitchen and Leffler house with energy efficient electric units. Have gas heating boiler in Thompson Chapel with a modified heat pump system. And new programmatic thermostats in Leffler House and Carriage House. So so things are happening. It's actually very exciting. And Doug, do you want to add to other things that we're working on?
Yes, I would love to do that. Call your attention to the Creation Care newsletter, excuse me, which Emily and I work on and others on the Creation Care staff work on, and that you can find online under the Creation Care heading in the St. Mark's. I also want to call attention to a forum on April 20th that will bring us the executive director of the Middle East Children's Alliance. So if you think about the 3 food categories that are part of our ministry, right? Creation Care, I'm joking, food categories, right? Creation Care, intergenerational and innovative community, restorative justice. This program on April 20th is a perfect example of bringing these various pieces together, because what the Middle East Children's Alliance is doing through its Maya project is bringing clean water to Gaza, which is a place where 95% of the water is undrinkable. So try to imagine, you go to your tap, you simply cannot drink the water. So they are bringing clean water to UN schools in Gaza, right? So what we are doing, and this is the bishop of our diocese has endorsed this project as a diocesan project to raise money to bring clean water to a particular school in Gaza. So this is intergenerational. It's a great thing to get our youth involved in, obviously directly Creation Care and also restorative justice. So April 20th, it'll be on Zoom, should be a great event. Thank you, folks.
Okay, great. So now we'll turn it over to the next goal, mutual ministry goal.
So here is our goal. As we envision ways of being church in a post-pandemic world, we will foster spiritual growth and nourishing relationships among members of the cathedral community through intergenerational programming, small group gatherings, and innovative ways to incorporate those new to St. Mark's as we seek to become beloved community. And I'm Wendy Claire Berry, I'm the canon for Intergenerational Ministries. And as you can see, I think in the goal itself, we are not so much a ministry unto ourselves as we are sneakily infiltrating all the other ones.
My name is Kristen Kelly. I'm the vestry vestry liaison to the intergenerational committee. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am to have who is, sorry, this thing. My name is, can you hear me? No. I can talk louder. You can come over here. Can you hear this?
Can you hear this?
My name
Still
is,
not-
sorry. My name is Kristen Kelly. I'm the vestry liaison for the intergenerational ministry. And I am very excited to get to work with Wendy, who is just in a very short time that I have known her, has come up with a million wonderful ideas about how to bring youth into more of the life of the church. And I think one of my goals is to actually, as a parent of smaller children also, to try to reach out to the other parents in the congregation and just figure out what they would feel comfortable with and how to increase our youth presence in the church with the pandemic still being a little uncertain for younger children. And just also to figure out, I love all of these ideas about, I was just talking to Ruth about maybe bringing the carbon tracker to families and sitting down with families and having people from grandmothers to young children sit down together and fill out the carbon tracker. And so just a lot of ideas, and I'm very excited to be part of this.
Next slide, please. So as Kristen mentioned, one of the big goals for 2022 is to re-engage children and families in the life of the parish in safe and meaningful ways. Of course, children under 5 are still unvaccinated, and so we're really prioritizing things that happen outside. As you leave today, if you leave through the cathedral, you may see some chalk drawings, because that's what's happening while we're here, as we have some children gathered who are eating goldfish crackers and hopefully having a story that I brought, and also drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. One easy way in is for all ages, are programs connected to liturgical seasons and hands-on learning about different ministries. And Kristen will talk more about the hands-on learning, but we did both an Advent program and a Lent program to open the seasons intergenerationally. Intergenerational, the activities in the place of formal Sunday school actually goes to that hands-on learning about different ministries as a way of reintegrating everyone into the life of the community. We're working toward having, for instance, the beekeeping ministry talk to us all, and the bees will be blessed. Where I understand new bees are arriving later in April, and so in May we're looking toward that. There will be an introduction to the labyrinth for all ages. There'll be a gardening activity. We are actually going to be here doing something specific for children and families on the Saturday of Palm Sunday, creating resurrection gardens. But it happens that the gardening ministry meets that day. And so families will have the opportunity to see what happens when the garden ministry meets, and some may stick around and join that work. Our intergenerational council meets quarterly. It's meeting this afternoon, in fact.
I don't know that I have that much more to add. I think Wendy summarized it very well, but again, yeah.
I want to invite Scott to join me here. How about now? Is it on? Very good. Restorative justice and systemic change, drawing on the scriptural adjoiner to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God, we will renew our commitment to seek and serve Christ in all persons, working toward restorative justice and the dignity of every human being while lamenting and working to change those systemic evils in the church and the world that corrupt and destroy the creatures of God. So restorative justice is about bringing things into proper relationship. We'll get to that one in a minute, but that there's the idea of punishment when we think about justice, but what we are talking in terms of this ministry goal is about how do we go about restoring relationship, coming back to be in proper relationship. And that is the call to home, as Steve was talking on his sermon today. And if you haven't heard it, I hope I didn't give too much. But is that call to be in proper relationship? One of the things that we're doing, focusing with this ministry goal, he's doing a lot of discernment and in-house discernment. There's a story in scripture, or that phrase in scripture, about looking at the little speck in somebody else's eyes, but not noticing the log that is stuck in our own eye. And the way that we're going about this ministry initially here at St. Mark's is that we will continue dreaming and looking for ways to be present in the world. Is how are we being changed ourselves? It is about building capacity for practices that are transformative and liberative. There is in our statement of commitment, there is a line that said that we pledge to be a network of faithful and prayerful learners, listeners, and activists. And what seems to be bubbling out of the conversations is that there is a need for us to learn to do those things, or to learn to do it in a different way. So we need to learn how to listen. That's not a practice that comes natural. And what are we listening for? So we need to have those practices. And in coming months, you'll hear more about this opportunity for us to come to learn how to listen. How do we listen to each other, but also how do we listen to stories that challenge ourselves? And that is a connection with learning, because we need to learn to learn. There's a concept of difficult knowledge, and that is when we're learning something that challenges our own assumptions, it brings a lot of resistance and a lot of pain for us. So how do we learn to unlearn as we learn? So creating that capacity for us to learn. And then also, what do we want to learn? What is this thing that we say we want to learn? And then the hopes is that as we listen and become better listeners, and we do the process of unlearning in a sustainable way that is transformative and learn, and then we can become humble activists. We can become people of action, who do it from a place of humility and a place of solidarity with others.
My name is Scott Hewlett, and I'm just so grateful for Eliassine. His uniquely gifted to lead us in this is my experience. I'm glad that you're part of St. Mark's here. First, at a personal level, I am brand new to Vestry. I mean, just in this last month or so. And I will say that a large part of my discernment to stand for Vestry was indeed these mutual ministry goals. All three of them, as Vestry brought them to us last year, resonated deeply with what I want to experience in service in my life. And when I was invited to come on to this, it just felt like sort of coming home, because it felt like I need a community. These are all so huge, so important. I need other people to inspire and to lead. And so I'm grateful at a personal level. And I too, in this particular area of our service together, would want to emphasize that first word in the goal, restorative. We are people of justice, of equanimity, of fair play, of fairness, of all created and loved by God, but there's work to do to repair what we have not done well. And again, the invitation that Vestry brought us last year and continues this year is to spend time with this very powerful document of the lament and call to action. And I invite you to let that be a part of your daily prayers, because that's where this work of changing our hearts that Elisine is talking about is happening for each one of us to prayerfully be with this statement that is so powerfully written for us. And it is a source of prayer. And very specifically, an invitation that's really right now in front of us is to be here in person, April the 3rd at 6:30 in the evening, I think. We are hosting, and this is an event with Cecile Hansen, the chair of the Duwamish tribe. There's reparative work to be done. Come and learn more. It's my understanding that Steve has been working for like 2 years to make this event happen, and coming here so that we can be in person and hear. And again, I'm moved recently by Jennifer's sermon, who had us, as I was hearing it, thinking of ourselves like Joseph's brothers in that story of Joseph. And we need to learn from those who have been offended to identify when it is we're doing the restorative work. So very specific event that can happen right away is show up here April 3rd, 6:30 for that event.
So now we want to open it up for questions for any of the presenters or others who are from vestry or clergy or staff who are here. So. Does anyone have a question? Mandy.
Hi, my name's Mandy Mogg. I'm new here. Congratulations to the vestry in not changing the goals. How countercultural, right? We think we always have to come up with new goals. So yay, good job, y'all. But I had a question though on the creation care, and I imagine, again, late to this party that y'all considered this at one time, but have y'all thought about QR codes at all for service leaflets? I saw it practiced at Trinity down in Portland. And so thinking about zero carbon and reducing those things and how we might experience a little bit of discomfort in our comfort of how things are, not always out there, but also right here. So just a thought. Did y'all think on that ever?
Kathy, you want to help with that?
To my knowledge, that has not come up. Marjorie, has that come up? All right, okay, so another parishioner has brought that up apparently, but yeah, I mean, I suppose it's up to Steve.
We have not talked about it as a vestry, but I think it keeps coming up, so I think we should. I will tell you, in a clergy colleague group in which the Dean of Trinity Cathedral Portland is a part, there's 20 of us around the country. 18 of the 20 all feel strongly that it is a red herring for us to think about moving to electronic because of the challenges that inserting the electronics into the worship experience has. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Perhaps we try it for a season and then assess. But I would find it very distracting if I pulled my phone out to not be tempted to go over and check the text from my grandchild to come in, and then I'm lost in the worship experience. And so we recycle all the paper that we use. And so that's kind of our rationalization, suppose, but we'll put it on the agenda to discuss.
No, I love the idea. I just want to say other things that we've been thinking about. I know that Greg can be very mindful of the layout, and so it can intentionally put in different text. And then also at one of the services, not printing all of the lyrics of the song or the words of the song to shorten. But I think that's something we should definitely look into. Mhm. Yeah.
My friend Nathan, the dean at Trinity, is a millennial, so.
Actually, that brings up, I'm also curious for if people have ideas that they would like to contribute, but they're not able to attend or be part of the formal ministry, how can people bring up ideas or questions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on each of these slides, which we'll post, there are names of the vestry liaisons, and we've also created a new mutual ministry page that lists the vestry liaisons and the clergy and staff liaisons. And so I would encourage you to reach out to any of those individuals. I know Creation Care meets the third Tuesday of every month. Intergenerational is quarterly. That is more of a council approach, but I'm sure that you could reach out to Wendy to either be on that agenda or Kristen. And then restorative justice, there are a lot of ways to get involved with the affinity groups in different areas that we listed. And so I would encourage you to reach out to Eliasine or any of the vestry liaisons.
Some of you here might hear from me this week as we convene a restorative justice and systemic change advisory council as well.
I want to make sure that there aren't any questions from Zoom because you're important too, and I haven't looked up there. Okay, well, just raise a hand if so. Wendy.
I just wanted to mention, we have another vestry liaison, Katie Prettyman, who is a diocesan member of the vestry. So she is often at her own church on Sunday mornings, which is why she's not here, but you can certainly reach out to her as well.
Thanks, Wendy.
And this is really a question for you, Steve. Because of the importance of Cecile Hansen coming next week, I wonder if there's anything that you can say about your work, not just to get her here, but what you're hoping for in terms of this relationship as going forward. This feels important.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So she and I have been discussing over about a 2-year period the prospect of getting her here. She's been to St. Mark's. I think this will be the 4th time in my 10 years here, but it's been 5 or 6 years since we last had her when one of the Lummi Totem Pole events came, and we invited her to, along with Earth Ministry, who was coordinating it. So the pandemic has just delayed us. I think it would have happened sooner. But it was a piece of the conversation she and I had related to the development of our land acknowledgement, in which our initial draft of the land acknowledgement was about 4 times longer than the one we have. And I read it to her over the phone last year sometime, and she cut me off halfway through and she says, "Simpler, Steve, let's keep it simple." So we took our cues from her and others in the tribe, and I think we have a good acknowledgement, but that acknowledgement is pointing to the commitment to the deeper relationship. We are called to be allies with the people on whose land we gather for worship, and many of us live. And as she and I have talked about, how can we do that without a hesitation? Every single time she says, support our effort to gain federal recognition as a tribe. If she will speak to the injustice that has been done by the federal government, by the US, by our nation, and the ways that it continues to be perpetuated in really unjust ways. And I think there is an opportunity. Emily and others are leading an effort to draw awareness of the change.org petition. They have 100,000 signatures already. They're hoping to get 150,000 as they try to get Deb Hyland, the Secretary of the Interior, who is an Indigenous woman in her own right, trying to get a new hearing for this process. Congresswoman Jayapal is on board and a strong advocate for them. And we're just being asked to come into that circle of advocacy in appropriate and respectful and honest ways, even while a couple of the other tribes have decided to make this an intertribal issue, which really is not historically ever been done. And it's really, I was talking with Cecile down at the Longhouse on Friday, and she is just undone by it. She's befuddled by why the Muckleshoot and the Tulalip primarily are trying to obfuscate. And so I think she'll speak to that as well.
Thanks. Other questions? Thank you. This has been fascinating. I appreciate all the hard work and the focus underneath and ongoing. I wanted to ask Marjorie and Emily, I think you're both participants in the diocesan work group, task force, whatever the right noun is, around climate change, environmental care, environmental stewardship. I was just wondering if you might comment on that for a second. I know this might be a little premature, but. Sure. Marjorie, do you want to just to share a little bit? I can say it's really interesting in being on this task force, because coming from a place of St. Mark's where so many people, even if you aren't involved in it, are aware of it and you know it's a major focus, having the lens of a goal to make this accessible across the diocese to churches that don't have that infrastructure or knowledge in place, it's very different. And it's been really helpful for us to know, A, how lucky we are to have leaders like Kathy and Marjorie, but B, like really thinking about the vocabulary and the ways in which we talk about it, because some of the things that may feel like a slam dunk to us are triggers for other people to not be involved and to really shut it out. So that's my learning from it.
Well, I think Emily pretty much covered everything, but I will say that we're in the process, and I would say finally, of writing up a draft to present to the bishop about how churches across the diocese can address creation care and climate change. And we've been meeting for several months. I think it was supposed to be a 6-month thing, and it's, I don't know, about a year now. And it's because there's so much to talk about. And like Emily said too, I come up and say, oh, here's what we're doing at St. Mark's, and it's this and it's that, and it's great. We've got all this leadership. And then somebody from a church with 50 parishioners says, excuse me, that's not what we can do. So it's really been a good reminder for us. But we're hoping to have something to the bishop, I think, within the next couple of months. And then we'll share that throughout the diocese. So, yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah. I just want to mention that Jennifer is our clergy liaison for creation care. And I meant to point that out when I was talking to you all about the mutual ministry goal. And she's been very helpful. She's now gone upstairs, but just wanted to mention that.
Other questions? Well, I'd encourage you to continue your ideas, Mandy, others, just those are the types of thinking that we need to put back on the table. Betsy, do you have a question?
Just want to invite everybody to come to the next intergenerational hike. It's going to be on the 24th of April. And if all goes well, we'll have somebody from the United Indian Nations from Daybreak Star come and lead us through their ceremonial ponds and on their paths and give us a history of how the Native Americans got ownership of that piece of property. And we'll start in the north parking lot and go through the Wolf Tree Nature Area, which is a creation care opportunity for us. So we're going to cover the whole 3 ministries if all goes well. And I'm hoping we'll all be very intentional about being mindful about all 3 things. So bring your children, anybody, grandchildren. I think it's going to be, and Suna, is the person who suggested this, and we did a, maiden voyage last Sunday, and it was really successful. So
Wonderful. So we'll post these slides on the website and the recording, and then also link to the Mutual Ministry website. But please reach out with your ideas and questions, because that's where the meaning is from you. So thank you so much for coming. Have a wonderful Sunday.